right, so let's go a little bigger here. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, this is where everything started for me. What's good? I'm compelled to talk about my chess journey, and really because I want to speak about developments and what I believe to be the separations between people who really become good at chess versus, you know, everybody else. Because there are a lot of different ways that you can see that people develop in chess and what they're focusing on. Now, a big part about chess is, let me make sure y'all are hearing me too with this. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So the thing about the chess thing is that uh I'm just let's get this go to the screen. Okay, okay. Let's just drop it down low real quick. Pause. Okay, my screen. Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I don't know what's going on here. I clearly this is like weird to me. Uh side by side. Oh, that's not whatever. Fuck it. Just anyway. So as you get better at as a chess player and stuff like that, there's just different observations that you can see about the game, and a lot of it is about like what people are focusing on, and you have to have a wide diversity, like a very wide understanding, really, which requires a desire to understand what it is that could be focused on in a particular game, just as you get better. And chess does a very good job at, I would say, fragmenting, um, what that means, what that is. So let's go like this. And so I'm gonna just give my story here. So, um, let's go back. I'm still fiddling with this shit. So this is where I've always said it started, right? Lichess. Lichess was my first like real love. Like I was like that was what I was constantly on all the time. Um, and what I explicitly remember it was, I was remembering at the time just how much by the way, I had released like my IWH album at this point. Music was just, doing its own thing. I'd already had, a couple of releases with you know, uh Quality Goods Records and everything. And I've always been a puzzles type of person, I always loved puzzles. I played with like the train tracks and everything as well as a kindergartner and stuff like that, preschooler, all that type of stuff. And but I was in chess club when I was in third grade, and I didn't really get to do that much with it because, we had to move. It was by like the first couple weeks, probably the first like within it didn't take very long where we had to move somewhere else. We had to move, back over to the West Coast. So anyway, um but I've always liked to hear of things that flex the mind, that exercise the mind, or just, I like puzzles, you know what I'm saying? Just things like that. And so for whatever reason, I started to garner an interest when I was 18, going on 19 of playing chess. And uh, honestly, too, I would say that a part of it was talking to like the different homies who I had met on the internet too. I mean, I know I was definitely thinking about it on my own, but I had talking about it. I had a lot of internet friends and stuff like that, and they would talk about, yeah, and we would just start talking about chess or whatever, and we started challenging each other in chess. Like if I go all the way to my very first game. There's a way quicker way to do this. I know that there is. But my all of my like very, very first games, especially like here, because I would play under the radar, like or like I was like maybe. maybe I don't want to like just create a profile right now, right? And like start taking it seriously like right now. And plus I was like playing with a friend, so it was just like fuck it. So, whatever. We have a lot of games that are like in the void basically. But then it was just decided like, what, fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and, just make an account since we're gonna be on this. And so, boom, so we're playing. And so yeah, whatever the first few times it was whatever it was, a little bit longer, probably like 5, 10 minute games, probably even a 30-minute game. But then, we were like, okay, well, let's make it faster. Because we realized how the time controls worked. And 3 minute, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 1 second with, the little increment or whatever, because it'd be like 0, 0 or like 0, 1 or whatever. And yeah, bro, like, and we would just do that all the time. Or we did that a lot, and there was a lot of growth in that. It's probably like hurting somebody's eyes somewhere, me trying to figure out how to do this, but I'm also, just keeping the story consistent. Um, so anyway, so you know, but I just realized, right? Like if like here on my chess.com profile, I actually started a chess.com profile February 8th. And now, I mean, this is believable because you couldn't even play on chess.com without like you really can't play on chess.com without an account. So I'm more than confident that I made the account, right? Like at the time, but I'm not confident that I played very much at first. Like I didn't really have the time. Like I was still, excuse me, like my situation was way different. Like, I'm making music, and like I said, I was making some of the best music. Like I was like really, I mean, I always am, but my environment was, what it was at the time. And so anyway, so like I said, I didn't really put that much on here. We also like some of the homies too, like that I wanted to play with that like we would just play. They weren't all gonna make an account on chess.com so that we could play together. You know what I mean? So that was why we went Lichess. Lichess has just always been the easier, smoother site. So yeah, now too, right? Like it says I have 8,000 games. It says I have 8,962 games logged on Lichess versus on chess.com I have like 51,000. And there are reasons for this which I'll get into in a second, or maybe even just in a whole different video because you know what I'm really talking about here is you know these deeper things like as I've gone deeper and deeper into it because like man, I think that same year, like that same Christmas was when my family put me on the street, where I became homeless. So I definitely wasn't able to just continue, even though I was genuinely interested at the time. I was genuinely I wanted to. I decided, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna do this. And I want to get more into chess as an adult. And like I said, so yeah, yeah. So I made the decision, and you know, I think it's more important for me to harp on, like I said, where I am now as opposed to the whole history. Even though, of course, I will give you the whole history at some other point. But yeah, so like I said, 51,000 games versus the 8,000 games. I would just say like the primary reason why I have 51,000 games on chess.com versus almost 9,000 on Lichess is because I was already I was already so far ahead on Lichess. Like notice how like my Lichess score 2064 is my current rating for Lichess. It says my highest rating is 2073 here on Lichess. I have a lot of like whatever big name wins or whatever the case may be, but like none of that matters. None of this stuff matters. But I definitely there's a lot of like chatter about which is like the better platform between Lichess and chess.com. And I've always felt Lichess was better because I feel like there's just more real players. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, there's still bots and stuff like this, griefers or whatever you want to call them, on Lichess, but not as many as on chess.com. Like chess.com is so commercial. And the other reason why I have always fancied Lichess over chess.com is because chess.com has advertisements and it slows down the site. Chess.com is slower than Lichess, and it gets in the way of being able to play smooth enough games. It's already, hard enough when you have the connection, but then you also have the GUI itself. You know what I'm saying? Like the actual chess.com interface in general is just built, it has conventionally been built very clunky, and part of that is because of this mainstream um, push that it has always had. I mean, they're chess.com, you know what I'm saying? They they got the domain, they're gonna play the name, they're gonna do what they're gonna do with that to try to make it right and keep it right. But anyway, 1700 Blitz, 1800 13 Rapid, 1481 Classical, whatever. But I was just seeing how high my scores were getting on Lichess, and I was like, well, I want my chess.com rating as well to be caught up with my Lichess scores. And I mean, honestly, like at this point, that's already happened multiple times. I can show you in my chess.com profile. So it says my highest it says my highest rating on chess.com for bullet is, oh, for blitz is 1656. 1656, interesting for blitz. 90 days all time. 1723, yeah. So 1723, let me see all stats. Can we go all stats? There we go. There we go. 1556 blitz. We just said so I've been like over 1700 blitz, which is uh let me see friends. I'm number two out of my friends. Oh really? I gotta catch up to whoever that is. But all time, all time. So all time 1723 versus my highest. Oh yeah, that's not even my highest in blitz on Lichess. So yeah. Uh so you have that and then Rapid. So Rapid, the highest 1646. Rapid, I'm 1813 here. Let me see. Highest rating 1879. And mind you, I remember in the beginning, Rapid wasn't my best. Um, for some reason, I would just keep fucking up in Rapid, but you also gain a lot more points in Rapid. There's a lot more point very difference uh being given in longer time controls. So that's something else to keep in mind for sure. So I'm just trying to make sure that this shit is doing what it's supposed to be doing, bro. Because like, what the fuck? Um, 1 second. Blah 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 blah. Oh, this is probably better. Yeah, we do like yeah, just like that. Fuck it. Um, yeah, just making sure everything is right. Anyway, so Rapid Classical. I mean, yeah, I haven't been able to do as much here, although I have real classical games, that I've played or whatever. But anyway, yeah, and then Bullet, my highest is 1953. So like at this point, I've definitely surpassed it multiple times. I just keep forgetting to go back to Lee Chess. That's just kind of the name of the game. I've been going back to it more just like lately, and plus, like you see, my Lee Chess is already like decked out. You feel me? Like I got my pictures on. I really started to go in. I changed the board and everything, like the piece sets. Like I started getting real custom with this. I mean, I just started doing it with chess.com too. I mean, not just started, but I've done some manipulation, but the point is like, I got way more comfortable on Lichess first, and really chess.com has always been more like, well, let me go ahead and get it on both platforms. I want to keep it up on both platforms. Like I said, I've been playing more on Chess. Like I said, I've gotten up to 1953 bullet on chess.com, but I've been as high as 2073, right? On Lee Chess. So, um, I thought I've even been to 2100, but whatever. And but yeah, so now in terms of the development from where I've been to where I am now, right? Like, um, I did listen from the beginning, of course, that the point of chess is not, to take all your opponent's pieces and, all that type of stuff, right? Like the objective of the game is checkmate. And so the end game is the most important to learn. So, you got you learning all these king and pawning games and like whatever rook end games and queen pawning games and everything and just doing your best, doing all of that stuff. And uh really more than anything, oh, and doing puzzles, right? Doing puzzles. And really, you're just noticing it's like, okay, yeah, boom, it's geometric, and it helps you understand, right, that okay, yeah, the focus of the game is checkmate, and there are various ways that you can achieve that checkmate, and you got to use the geometry of the board, right? You got to be aware, you got to have your eyes open, and coordinate your pieces and all that type of stuff in order to, checkmate the king. But the way that this information gets consolidated is like, I mean, again, at a very base level, it is about the conscious decisions that the player themselves makes. Like if you're gonna do something, right, then you should care about it. You should love it. You should have genuine interest in what that thing is. Um, because I mean, yeah, like you can even find yourself multiple times going back and back and back when you're reading chess books or when you're doing, tactics or when you're like just reading stuff. And again, okay, boom, boom, in games and all this stuff. Yeah, Rook and Pawn in games and all of this. And by the way, I've always been sensitive to the idea since the beginning that it is actually not discussed enough just how much the end game is important. Um, like meaning in people learning about what chess is from the beginning and wanting to get into it. And I do still agree with that. I don't think that that is far-fetched to say. But um, in even what there is to be said about the topic, uh, there isn't enough. Like I said, man, like there just isn't enough. Oh, I don't even know if you guys have even like seen everything that was here. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is probably gonna be like really weird, but I know you hear what I'm saying and what I'm talking about, and I'll help you guys out. I can do some editing and all that, making sure everything's good. But anyway, when this, like I said, this development as a player and dealing with the end game and all of that type of stuff and seeing the geometric ways, man, there's like because even with that, right? Like we talk about the different ways that we can improve, right? And definitely puzzles are definitely a great way to improve. Um Puzzles, of course, are a great way to improve. I'd say books are another great way to improve. And one of the reasons why books are a great way to improve is because they show you games. So also looking at other people's games, looking at masters' games, watching games live. Yeah, I would say watching games live and also watching them retroactively are really beautiful. And also just generally, right, like you have different databases and stuff like this that consist of Masters games. You can also even look up openings, you can look up positions, you can look up concepts and stuff like that, and just be bombarded with information regarding those concepts, you know what I mean? That's part of the beauty of the exchange of information and history. But anyway, so chess. Um, so like I said, you can kind of reach this almost plateau. and I'm happy that I found that word plateau as opposed to the word ditch. Because it's only a ditch if you make the decision to give up, right? And the giving up is really the decision that you're making and how far you want to go in improving as a player, you know? Like again, how much care you actually have for the game. And it can truly only be reflected by your actual actions, you know, like your actual showing you're actually making improvements in the game, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I mean, it's interesting how in the beginning you kind of go from, okay, yeah, end game to then getting caught up in the opening stuff, right? Because the opening stuff you can get wrapped up in, but the main reason why the opening stuff winds up becoming important or like what there is to understand about the opening is that you know, you start to realize that your timing matters. Like you really start to realize how much your timing matters in terms of the execution of certain things, certain concepts, and not just timing, but awareness of the possibilities, right? Because even too much of a focus on endgame can have you become too neglectful about the what's going on in the middle game, or even again what's going on in the opening. You know, and you wind up missing stuff, or you wind up, you know, just losing stuff. And sometimes you're gonna have just some of the easiest, you know, losses on things that you're like, wait, haven't I seen this opening like so many times? Why do I keep having this problem? Why do I keep running into, you know, these types of things? So. Um, I would say that's a good place where openings come from, but really, again, it's not talked about enough just how much man, I'm just itching my nose so much. I gotta take a but anyway, you don't really realize how much really it's like middle game play, you know? And you kind of think about it too, because you know, you're sitting there at the analysis board. And you know, that's one of the things you're doing with the opening. You know, you're or even end games, but really like the opening. You're putting yourself, you're like, okay, well, I have this position. So what about if I did this? What about if I did that? What about if this happened? What about if that happened? And you know, yeah, we can absolutely go ahead and investigate for ourselves, you know, what possibly could have transpired or whatever. But uh also as we grow as players, right? Just like with anything, we become we become like we hover over the same sorts of topics generally. Not saying that we don't open our eyes to different ones, but like, you know, again, I'm gonna just keep it on chess. In terms of opening choices. So like, you know, what are you gonna do against E4? What are you gonna do against D4? What are you gonna do against knight F3? What are you gonna do against C4? What are you gonna do? Um, because different people play different things. Or you know, how are you going to develop your plan? You never know what your opponent could play in terms of opening style, right? That's the primary reason why we um we you know, do our best to be prepared, right? And we talk about, you know, theory and all this, and you know, we do our thing. But you know, nah, again, there's like cause then even in that when you're learning, like I said, just the separations when it comes to the openings or when it comes to like I said, middle game tactics and all of that type of stuff, you know, when we're looking at the analysis board, it's more so again noticing the patterns, you know, um the patterns. And so there are a few patterns to speak of in terms of things to watch out for, and including the most popular openings. These things are really up to us, yes, evaluating our own games, but they're also about, like I said, looking at other people's games. Um, um, Generally also doing more puzzles. Puzzles are like magical, man. Puzzles are just like so powerful. But but anyway, yeah, the the difference between a player who really wants to play uh or and a player who doesn't want to play is their investment and understanding of these various middle game positions, these common sorts of things that we reach, the middle game is where we go ahead and really illustrate what we want on the board. I mean, one of the things you'd see from watching master games is they'll make lesser obvious moves in order to achieve familiar positions for themselves, and then they'll play from those positions. Actually, I have a great example of this. Uh, if I go to Humpy Konaru versus Azucena, yeah. So if we look at this game and Humpy's white, okay, boom, they go back. And I mean, the moves seem kind of natural. Okay, Rook C8, grabbing the half open file. Okay, Knight F8. Okay, so now we raise the rook up, right? So we raise the rook up, and then the bishop goes here to the bottom. Now on one hand, yeah, it prevents the knight from taking, but also like this is something that Humpy just does. Like, there's a reason why she's done this. Um, she's putting herself into a familiar position. Uh, so takes. Yeah, Rook C8. Okay. And this is just an example. Look at that. Like, and just look at that coordination. The she has like that knowledge of knowing that, the bishop is no longer going to be useful along this diagonal. Like, and so it needs a better place to be. Like, it's gonna wind up being trapped. Plus it's in the way of the pawns being able to move. We already have the knight and the queen aiming toward the king side, and then even beyond that, whenever this knight gets unleashed or whatever, like, again, imagine that this bishop isn't even here. Like, I mean, imagine it's even, still right over here. And then you just got all this mess. Like, it's just mess. Like, doubled C pawn, I mean doubled F pawn. And then, or trying to figure, because this knight has to come to E5. Um, yeah, that's really the best place for it to be. Otherwise, it's going to be stuck on knight F3. A lot of times we can wind up in these sorts of positions too, where, we don't know what to do with our knights on C3 or F3. We're trying to find a way. We wind up learning things like knight E2s and knight D2s. Sometimes it's even appropriate to go knight H2. Um, but yeah, I mean, even though like the queenside minor pieces, I have a whole article on the queenside minor pieces, but you just want to be mindful, you know what I mean? And plus they're like prime. Same thing with black. Like, black has the same sorts of situations. You can have bishops on, the respective diagonals. But, like I said, I mean, this is clearly that's something that Humpy was able to find. And again, it's primarily because of this issue of, okay, well, yeah, truly just how much, and this is a queenside bishop, by the way. So the queenside bishop, she's like, man, how can I really make this thing, useful? Because, it's like in the way. Excuse me, and you try to get that timing right, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I can determine now when, okay, well, I have everything, all these different things coordinated, and I can get it on a better diagonal, aiming toward the king, especially since the king is castled. Um, so. Anyway, like I said, and these are the different types of things that you do as a more advanced player, as somebody who, like I said, just notices just these certain things, and so you want to try to build these tools, build these workarounds, and stuff like that. And they're very educational. These are very, very educational moments. Humpy went on to win this game, I believe. Yeah, I don't think it was a draw. Oh, this was Zhu Jiner. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, blundered. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. and then yeah, yeah, and then Humpy won this. So yeah, like this, it's like it's stuff like that. And she was able to do that because she was in a comfortable position, and there's such a novelty. I mean, as we would call it, right? This Bishop C1 move. And like I said, with just the express intent of just getting to a better diagonal. So, like I said, like that's one of the big differences between people who actually play the game or and actually want to win and like want to get better and stuff like that versus, people who just casually play. I casually play. Hey, and it doesn't matter, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But such a mindset will help in multiple ways. It'll help in anything that you do. You know what I mean? Like how serious are you really about this thing? And it does take a real investment. So yeah, it's interesting how you go from as a uh middle game. I'm sorry, you go from a like you're like it, meaning even in the conventional way from an end game focus to an opening focus. It's very easy to start getting caught up in the opening focus, but really, really understanding how much it's a middle game focus. You know what I mean? When you have these games that you'll see, for example, you'll have like blitz games and all of that type of stuff, Gary Kasparov versus Hikaru, um, shit, Carlson, versus Sam Shankland, I believe it was, or whoever, and being able to, oh no, that was Richard Rapport. But anyway, playing these games and stuff, and you seeing the time that's going on and what they're thinking about, what it is that they're actually doing, they are creating better circumstances for themselves, with what they have, and so that they can wind up in a more familiar position so that they can win. And, that's important not just in chess, but, in life. So, and you can only improve it by actually going ahead and improving it. So, yeah, bro, if this is what you want to do, then you'll want to go ahead and do that. And yeah, those are things let them here.